Welcome back to the Retire As You Desire show. In today's episode, we're going to have a lot of fun because this show is geared towards the do-it-yourself folks out there who do their own retirement planning, their own investment planning. I have so much respect for you. I have so much faith in you as well because it's not easy to take this task on all on your own. It really takes a ton of dedication, education, and just planning. You really need to understand how to plan and how to really plan out your retirement all on your own. But today we're going to talk about some of the things to look out for, some of the things not to do as well. So I'm hoping to give you a ton of value on today's show as always. And when we're talking about pitfalls, about retirement planning, if you're going to do things yourself, there's a whole plethora of things to look out for. So let's get into these today. I really want to give you a lot of details and real life examples as to how people have been able to successfully plan their retirement. And really doing your retirement planning, it could be empowering. It can give you a ton of really great and cost-effective ways to give you confidence going into retirement. So whenever you're planning your retirement, there could be some huge pitfalls if you're not aware as to what to look out for, and we're going to cover a lot of those in today's show. So stay with us for the whole entire episode. There's going to be some great information throughout the whole entire program. Now, one of the big pitfalls that I've seen over the years, the first one is just a simple lack of expertise. This is where you haven't been a financial advisor, you haven't planned other people's retirements, and you don't know the ins and outs as to what to look out for. Because let's face it, it's very complex. Learning the different financial products, understanding the intricacies of all of them and how they work. This is something that I've seen over the years that people don't have a really great education on. Most people will pick a simple ETF and just stick with that, but they don't understand bonds, mutual funds, or even annuities if you want that to be part of your portfolio. And it's really hard to get an annuity inside of your investment accounts if you're not working with a financial advisor, because there's so many of them and you don't know how to choose which one may be best for you. Now, let's talk about tax implications. Most do-it-yourselfers, they're pretty stealth and pretty knowledgeable from a tax perspective. A lot of them go to seminars, they go to workshops. I mean, I used to teach these at schools and libraries over the years, and I learned a lot of things from these do-it-yourself investors. They get the traditional IRA versus a Roth IRA, but they also understand the tax implications and what's potentially coming down the road in the future from a tax perspective. They really have a great grasp, and I give them so much credit for this, on what to do. They know where the different tax brackets are. This is why they go to seminars and they go to workshops, because they want to pick up that one little nugget of information to help them make better decisions. Now, some of the people who I've worked with and just talked to over the years from a do-it-yourself standpoint, they've really struggled with making emotional decisions. This is where they don't really have the strength to focus in on what their future looks like, and especially from an emotional standpoint. I've seen some do-it-yourselfers, they've really panicked through the market downturns. And this is where we want to make the most important financial decisions by either sticking with your plan and try not to sell at a loss, because we don't want to get to a point where we sold at the bottom and you're buying back at the top. You could be losing out on a 10, 20, 30% return by just leaving your assets stay where they're at versus trying to panic sell. Now, I want to talk about confidence in retirement planning. When you're doing your own planning, I've seen a lot of people just get really, really confident on what they've done. They're proud, they want to brag about it. These investors often, they don't really focus in on what could happen. They just think, you know what, I made 20% this year, this is going to happen every year. Or I picked the best stock for the year, which is probably unlikely. But if you got lucky and did that, congratulations. But These investors tend to act poorly when things go wrong. When you're overconfident, we want to keep a really strong head on your shoulders through good times, bad times. This is going to help you avoid making these emotional decisions and making bad choices. And this really leads into fear and anxiety. When you have market downturns, especially when you actually retire, so let's say you retired in 2024, the market's down 20-30%, this could lead to a lot of stress, and if you don't have someone to turn to or talk to, it could be really detrimental from an investment planning standpoint. And really the fear of losing money, it could drive these DIYers to sell their investments at a loss rather than holding for a potential better opportunity for their future. So some of the folks who I've talked to at these workshops that I used to do, they have loss aversion. This is really a psychological phenomenon. It makes people feel the pain of losses more acutely rather than actually enjoying the pleasures of gains. There was a study back in the day that said the loss of a stock market portfolio is 3 times greater emotionally than your money's actually growing and you actually enjoying these gains from a long-term planning strategy. So when the markets are down, we want to be very, very aware as to what to do, and having someone on your side could be a huge benefit for you. I've also seen that people who want to plan out their investments, they don't have a plan and they don't know what to do when things go wrong or when things go well, actually. They don't know if they should reallocate, if they should just keep things where they are. But that's when erratic buying and selling tends to happen. We want to avoid this, and this is why planning is so crucial. Another aspect of do-it-yourself investing is all about risk management. What strategies have you put in place to help avoid losses? Do you have stop loss orders in your portfolio? Is your portfolio diversified? Are you just holding 5 or 6 technology stocks that could really be impacted if the markets go down? This has a lot to do with market volatility. In planning for your retirement, as a do-it-yourself investor, it really requires careful preparation and ongoing education. This is why going to workshops is key, but also having discipline. If you have your plan in place, stick to your discipline and stick to the rules. You want to create goals and rules for your portfolio. And here's a way to help you set clear goals. You want to determine the age that you want to actually retire as you desire. This is going to help set a benchmark, and if you don't have something to shoot for, it's hard to hit that goal. It's probably never going to happen. But this is going to help influence your investment saving strategies, how much you need to save, and actually how much risk you want to be taking on in your portfolio. This is going to help estimate your expenses as well. Setting up a really simple rate of return from an expense standpoint is going to be huge. This should include your healthcare, your hobbies, traveling, and also your housing. Looking at your expenses from a tax standpoint as well is going to be a big part of your retirement plans, whether you work with an advisor or not. But you want to use a simple rate of return, whether it's 3% or 5%, to count on inflation. When things go up, as they have been over the past 4 years, from 2020 to 2024, you have an opportunity to still have your investments to grow with these growing costs, which are probably going to be pretty prevalent from now throughout your whole entire retirement. And this really goes into having an adjustment for inflation. When you account for your inflation, we need to estimate this. I like to use a simple 3% in our retirement income plans, but this helps you try and maintain your purchasing power in retirement. Because if you set up a fixed budget and a fixed income, the problems that I've seen that we want to avoid are when the price of gas goes up, when eggs go up, when bread goes up, the simple things in life. If you can't keep up with these costs, if you don't have investments that could give you an increasing income, it could be really difficult for you to keep pace with these things 10 or 20 years into retirement. And if you're trying to catch up, it might be too late. This is why having a solid plan going into retirement is crucial. Now, as far as your income sources go in retirement, you want to have multiple sources of income. This is the name of the game. If you have the ability to have your Social Security, any pensions, potentially rental income or REITs that give you income every single month, this could be huge. Now, I do know that a lot of do-it-yourselfers, they love part-time work in retirement because they know it's great for their health, it's great for their brain, keeps them active. Really, it allows them to be part of a community, but it gives them extra income. And for a lot of folks, that's their play money. Those are the funds that they get to go have a great time with, enjoy their lives, and go out to dinner, go have drinks with friends. And that's a great way to have your investments still growing and you're not dipping into them for discretionary spending. Now, one of the things I love people to do in retirement is travel. This is a great way to extend your longevity, extend your life potentially, but also it allows you to enjoy the finer things in life. You still want to be living in retirement. You don't want to be dormant, not going out and enjoying life. Now, I think on this segment, we just touched upon a lot of different areas as far as retirement income planning goes. But I'm going to go into how to actually make this happen in the next segment. What to do, how do you figure out how to save, how do you create an emergency plan? That way, you're going to be having great information before you go into retirement. And if you're already in retirement, hopefully this can enhance your plans. Stay tuned to the Retire As You Desire show. Welcome back to the Retire As You Desire show. Today's episode is really dedicated to the people who do their planning on their own. I have a lot of respect for you, a lot of faith in you, and I want to help you create the best plans possible for you in retirement. If you're doing your own retirement planning, there's a lot of things to look out for, a ton of them. And the thing that I've seen do-it-yourselfers, the thing that they kind of get tripped up on the most is how much do you actually need to save? How much should I plan for? And I'm going to take you through a step-by-step process that I do with my clients to show our clients how we could actually help them retire as they desire and plan for income to at least 100. That's the age that we're shooting for. With longevity creeping up, us getting older, but also us living longer, it's important that we have a plan for income that could potentially last to age 100. So let's say you're not retired yet. You're planning on retiring. You want to make this happen in the next 5 years. What do you need to do? So number one, tally up all of your investments, all of your assets. You want to know your net worth. Now, this doesn't have a huge effect as to creating income. I mean, partially it will, but it doesn't have a big determining factor. But you want to know this because you need to know how much debt you have going into retirement. That's one thing that we want to try and eliminate is bad debt before you go into retirement. The one caveat to this is if you have a mortgage. Now let's say your mortgage rate is 3% and you're basically only paying your principal at this point in time. Let's say you have 5 years left. I want you to pull out your amortization schedule. I know this is boring, it's not fun, it's not looking at great stock returns or your investment returns, but you need to know this to make great decisions. When you pull out your amortization schedule, if you can even find it, right? It's probably hidden somewhere in your closet or your safe. When you have this, those last 5 years, you're primarily paying your principal down. The first 30 years, or the first 25 years, you're paying down interest for the most part. But those last 5 years, in my opinion, I think it's silly for investors to take a big chunk, especially out of pre-tax dollars from their investment accounts to pay off their mortgage. So I get asked a lot, should we pull out 30 grand or 50 grand from our pre-tax 401ks or pre-tax IRAs? And I say, well, probably not, but let's look at the numbers, especially if your interest rates are so incredibly low. At that point, you're going to be taxed on the $30,000 that you withdraw from the pre-tax accounts. But then what happens to your taxes? You may be paying an extra 22 or 24% on that money. So you're losing out on your future self and your future earnings. We want to avoid that at all costs. Also, on top of that, an exercise that I have do-it-yourselfers do is take that $30,000 and invest that for the next 30 years. Try and get a 5% rate of return. And do the math problem. See how much money you could potentially have after that 30 years instead of spending it, right? That's the offset. You're not going to be paying off more interest versus how much you could potentially make into the future. So it pays for you to keep your money invested rather than paying taxes, having that money dwindle up now, and you're probably, I'm saying probably because we just don't know, but we're probably not going to be able to see that growth in your home to offset those potential gains in your account. So that's part of making great decisions going into retirement and not making emotional ones. Like, let's make educated decisions. Let the numbers do the talking. Take the emotions out of the equation. And when the numbers do the talking, you get to make much better decisions. That's what retirement planning is all about. And I want you to really think about setting up your goals. Talking about this with someone is going to help you a ton. If you need to set up your goals and you don't know what they are, you probably shouldn't retire yet. You want to wait and do this right, because you want to get this right on the onset, because it's going to help set up a great income for your future. Now, let's talk about goals. Some of these goals are, how much income would you like to receive every month? Also, how much do you want to travel? Setting up rules for your retirement plan are going to help you create incredible goals and allow you to make better decisions moving forward. From an annual standpoint, how much income do you really need? That way, you can reverse engineer income from your portfolio to be deposited into your bank account every single month. Hopefully this lasts till at least 100, and it allows you to live the life that you've dreamed of. If you're going to do this yourself, you want to use a percentage as a withdrawal standpoint. Right now, interest rates are pretty high, luckily. But the thing is, they may not last forever. So for instance, if you have a CD that's paying 5% interest in 2024's dollars, it may be different in 2030. It's most likely going to be different in 2035. So you can't count on that same 5% CD interest 10, 20 years into the future. So this is why I like helping people and really recommend people to have a strategy for withdrawals and using a 3%, 4%, 5% withdrawal strategy for your overall portfolio. Because let's say you've been blessed and you saved $1 million. Congratulations, it's an incredible achievement, and it takes time to do these things. But if you do a 3% withdrawal strategy, that's $30,000. If you do 4%, obviously it's $40,000, so on and so forth. But you need to be honest with yourself to ask yourself, can you live off of $30,000, $40,000, or $50,000 a year? And then you add your Social Security, that may be an extra $30,000 to $40,000 a year. Is anywhere between $80,000 to $100,000 enough income for you to live off of? And I don't know that answer. But the thing is that I've seen over the years, most people overplan for income, which is a great thing. But you need to be very, very honest with yourself, and your goals need to be part of that equation and that conversation. Now, if you haven't retired yet, I think setting up like an automatic savings account would be huge, because emergencies come up in retirement. We've had clients who have had to go into the hospital, they've had medical issues, things have come up, new cars have not been uncommon. The roofs, that's not super common, but they do pop up. And if you need the extra $15,000 to $30,000 or more to cover these goals, how are you going to do that in retirement? You want to have after-tax dollars set up, put aside in a bank account that you probably don't look at every day. That way you kind of have it out of sight, out of mind. You're not going to touch it unless you have that emergency. So before you go into retirement, especially if you're still working and you don't have your emergency fund set up, a lot of gurus, a lot of financial advisors will say 3 months, 6 months, 12 months even. I think 12 months is way too much. I don't think you need to put 12 months worth of cash set aside. But emotionally, if that's what makes you feel comfortable, you need to follow your own set of rules, especially if you're a do-it-yourselfer. But if you're still working, have your income set up automatic withdrawals from your bank account into a separate bank account. So that way you can have income for emergencies when needed. Just automate it. Just allow things to happen automatically. It really takes the guesses and stresses out of your financial life. That's an important thing to understand. And as far as your health goes, one of the things that I think do-it-yourselfers don't really know what's available to them is because they're not working with financial products every day, is how to plan for long-term care. This is the number one thing that people miss in retirement planning as a whole. Even financial advisors can get this wrong. But according to today's numbers, 70%, yes, 70% of retirees, they're gonna need some form of long-term care in retirement. 7 out of 10. And let's face it, as we get older, is your health getting better or worse? Usually, unfortunately, it's not getting better for most people. So planning for long-term care is going to be one of the most critical things that you can do. This is where working with the financial advisor may help you, or if you don't trust or if you don't want a financial advisor helping you with your investments, allowing someone who specializes in this area could really put a great opportunity. Just put that aside so that you could take a lot of stress off of your plate. Whereas if you become ill, you have a plan. That way you don't have to dip into your investments as much. It may cause a lot of taxation on your portfolio. Also for your family, if you're married or if you have kids, this could be a way to potentially protect them as well from a stress standpoint. It's already going to be stressful enough if you become ill, but if you don't have a plan in place to self-fund a long-term care strategy, you're really going to be missing out. So this is one thing that I really advise you to take seriously if you're going to plan out your own retirement. And in our next segment, you're going to want to stay tuned. We have a ton of great information coming up as to how to retire as you desire if you're going to do your own retirement planning. Stay tuned to the show. Looking at your tax bracket, crucial. It's super, super crucial in retirement planning. If you have the ability to stay underneath the 32% tax bracket, that could be a huge benefit for you and or your spouse from a conversion planning standpoint. Pre-tax money first, after-tax money second, tax-free money third. As far as your retirement accounts go, here's a great rule of thumb to use for anyone watching this show right now. Welcome back to the Retire As You Desire show. Today we're talking all about do-it-yourselfers from a retirement income planning standpoint. I'm here to give you some tips and tricks on how I help my clients retire as they desire, and really want to give you great value as to how you can do things on your own, because some people have the mindset, they have the dedication to do this on their own. Most people don't want to. I really believe in the phrase, who not how. Who should be doing the work, not how is it going to get done. Dan Sullivan coined that one, great friend of mine. But from an investment standpoint, I think that's the biggest aspect from a retirement income planning standpoint, is understanding what you should do, where your account withdrawals come from, and what does it look like. And how do you know if you've actually saved enough from a retirement planning standpoint. And I'm going to share some examples today of conversations, real life conversations that I've had with people who plan their retirement income all by themselves. So I'm going to show you the things that they've missed and the things that they've really excelled on, because I've seen it all. I've really seen it all over the years. As far as your retirement accounts go, here's a great rule of thumb to use for anyone watching this show right now. From an income planning standpoint, what I advise clients to do, and again, this is not a blanket recommendation, but this tends to work a lot of the times, is if you have pre-tax dollars, those are the ones that you're going to want to take withdrawals from first. And let's go into why. And one of the do-it-yourselfers I had a really great conversation with about this. They were fighting me on this for a long time because they wanted to use their Roth IRA money first. And I said, you should probably use that last. But let's go into why as far as details go. Starting out your retirement, especially if you're going to retire early, like early 60s, and you don't have your Social Security yet, this is a great way for you to strategize. And getting a great strategy in place is what retirement planning is all about. If you use your pre-tax dollars first, this is going to help eliminate potential higher required minimum distributions when you turn 73. That's the law. In 2024, if you turn 73, you have to start taking withdrawals from your pre-tax investment accounts. So if you start taking your withdrawals first from 60 to 73, here's what happens. You're gonna still have hopefully growth in your accounts. Hopefully you don't withdraw everything, but this allows you to have smaller required minimum distributions instead of higher ones. The reason that you want to have a smaller required minimum distribution is this could help offset some of your Social Security income and your Medicare premium taxes. Yes, your Medicare could be taxed. There's 4 different thresholds as far as taxation goes. They change every year. You're going to want to keep up on this. But using those pre-tax dollars first could help avoid extra taxation on your retirement accounts and from your Medicare premiums, also your Social Security income. So this could hopefully save you money into the future. Another reason why you want to use your pre-tax dollars first is you could also potentially be doing Roth IRA conversions during this time. Now, one of the really big benefits that you want to do this is because you pay your taxes now. Looking at your tax bracket, crucial. It's super crucial in retirement planning. If you have the ability to stay underneath the 32% tax bracket, that could be a huge benefit for you and or your spouse from a conversion planning standpoint. Because if you convert this money, you're going to pay your taxes up front. It's part of the game. At some point, you're going to pay your taxes. But the IRS allows you to delay paying taxes until you take withdrawals. In their mind, they're setting you up to have a great potential future income if you saved enough. But the thing is, you're creating a bigger taxable account for them to tax you on later, and that's what we want to avoid. So if you do a Roth IRA conversion, that could be a huge benefit for you into retirement. Now let's talk about ways to pay your taxes if you do a Roth IRA conversion. In the last segment, we talked about ways to set up some emergency funds. One of the emergency fund options that you could set up is a tax account. This way, if you do have a big tax bill the following year, you have money sitting there to pay that, especially if you're going to do a Roth conversion. Now you could pay your taxes really one of 2 ways. Let's say if you did a $100,000 Roth IRA conversion from your pre-tax dollars into your Roth IRA. And let's say you're in the 24% tax bracket. Essentially, if we're doing simple math, your taxes on that are going to be roughly $24,000. What you can do is do a withholding of the money. So when your advisor or your institution does this conversion, that $24,000 could be set aside and sent to the government for you. That way, you're hopefully not getting a huge tax bill the following year. It's a great way to do it. The problem with that is that the full $100,000 is not available to grow. And that money is going to grow tax-free. So if you're not sure which way to go, if you have the taxes on the side and set aside already, that may be a huge opportunity for you to just write a check the next year, send it into the government, and then allow that full $100,000 to grow. I've done Roth IRA conversions for my money, for our household money, and what I did is I did the full amount, left it in the account, and I just paid the tax bill the following year. In my opinion, that's the best way to go if we can do that. But if not, if you're not in that situation, but you're worried about taxes increasing in the future, you can do a withholding right away. So that's a huge benefit. You have options, and options are always a good thing for you. Now, if we're going to be talking about your future income, do you want to be taxed on that, or do you not want to be taxed? Well, the second withdrawal strategy, based on institutional numbers, when I took my RICP courses, this is what they laid out for us. Try and use your pre-tax dollars first. But then I've had people ask me, hey Bill, what happens if we use all that money up? What do we do next? What are the next steps? So let's go into that right now. The next steps are to try and use your after-tax dollars. This is including stocks, bonds, any after-tax mutual funds, basically in a brokerage account. The reason for this has the second best favorable taxation on your dollars. So if you're doing your own planning yourself, look at pre-tax first, then look at your stocks and bonds, your CDs, things of that nature, to live off next, especially if you're doing a withdrawal strategy based on a percentage, and especially if you don't have any annuities in your portfolio. Now, the reason for doing your stocks and your bonds and your CDs after is because we want to try and save the Roth money for last. And I'm going to go really into detail as to why in a few moments here. But from a stock standpoint, you could have some great tax benefits by paying 0%, 15%, or 20% in 2024's tax brackets from a stock withdrawal standpoint. So this is going to be based on capital gains. If you bought a stock, let's say today, and you sold it 1 month later on a gain, this is one of the things that we may want to try and avoid. And here's why. This gets taxed on an ordinary income basis. And this is usually the least favorable way to be taxed, especially if you're still working. So if you're day trading or trying to make money quickly, this is something that you need to take into consideration because you're taxed pretty heavily on these dollars. So you might lose a big portion of that if you're day trading. But if you don't have pre-tax income, if everything has been Roth and after tax, you could be in a much more favorable position. And this could save you a ton of money on your Social Security income taxation, but also your Medicare premiums. We could try and keep them lower as well. So, and this is all part of your investment allocation strategy. It's like, how are you going to diversify your withdrawals? I've also had clients take withdrawals from all three accounts throughout the year because they didn't want to bump up to a Medicare premium bracket. They didn't want to bump their Social Security and put that into taxation. That is how granular do-it-yourselfers really are from an investment strategy standpoint. And then let's go into the Roth, because I want to wrap up this segment, talk about all about the Roth IRAs, why they're so important. Number one, when you take withdrawals from your Roth after you exhausted your other assets, this comes out tax-free. This is usually when you need this later on in life. But the beautiful thing about having Roth IRAs, and this is why we do it in our household, especially Roth 401ks, is you get to pass on those assets tax-free to a spouse, children. Granted, there's rules around this. You want to understand them and understand how to play the game in the best way possible. But if you want to buy something in retirement or if you need income, this could help offset Social Security taxation. This keeps your Social Security income tax-free, which is a great thing. But also, you're not going to lose a ton of money on this from a tax standpoint. So that's why the Roth IRAs are so crucial. So to wrap this up, pre-tax money first, after-tax money second, tax-free money third. That is a great strategy, and hopefully this will help you from a do-it-yourselfer standpoint for retirement income planning. Stay tuned for the last segment of today's show. Here are some of the things that this do-it-yourself couple did very, very well that really surprised me, that I've really never seen before in my career. Welcome back to the Retire As You Desire show. In the last segment, I'm going to give you real life examples of do-it-yourselfers who have really done a great job from a planning standpoint, because I've spoken with them, I've talked to them, and I've helped some of them plan actually. And then I'm going to give you a scenario where it didn't go so well. And these are the things that I want to help you avoid, because your retirement years are meant to be what? The golden years. They're supposed to be the best years of your life. You have your freedom, you've bought back your time. It's part of the whole Retire As You Desire strategy, is how do you buy back your time? And this one couple, I'm going to give you a real live scenario that helped them retire as they desired on their own terms. They did things their own way. So they are definitely detail-oriented people. They were engineers in both of their careers. So it was a husband and wife. There was an age gap between them of about 3 years. But the thing is, they were super nice people, but they loved to live extravagantly. They liked the nice things. They liked nice watches and nice cars and really high-end vacations. But to be frank with you all watching the show, and I'm super grateful that you're watching this show, but they took the time to do things in the best way possible. They did things right. Here are some of the things that this do-it-yourself couple did very, very well that really surprised me, that I've really never seen before in my career. Number one, they did all of their own Social Security planning by themselves. But they did call the Social Security Administration to help plan out their income. You can do this, you definitely can, but most people don't. They want to work with their financial advisor, someone who they could actually trust and know and speak to and see in person. I recommend that too, being one. But this couple, they figured out what to do from a Social Security standpoint. Now, another thing that they did that blew my mind is they did their own taxes too. They were doing everything themselves. And it wasn't because they didn't trust other people. They just felt like they had the right amount of knowledge and they spent the time to study to get things right for themselves. And this is what really blew me away. And I met them through one of the library sessions that I used to teach on Social Security planning. And they basically knew almost every single in and out from the IRS tax code from a Social Security income standpoint. And here's what they did. They went to a very high level of detail from an investment withdrawal standpoint. So every year, they basically did a Roth IRA conversion up to the 32% tax bracket. Now they saved roughly under $4 million. They did great. They had almost $4 million saved at that time. If I were gonna guess, it's probably grown now for them because they've done such a great job of planning. But they had the right mindset. They didn't panic when things went bad. They invested more and they got more aggressive, and that's how they got ahead. But they really never wanted to go into that 32% tax bracket for doing a Roth IRA conversion. And I agree with that. That's what I think as well from a planning standpoint. And that's what I try and avoid for my Roth IRA conversions for our family. But here's what they did that surprised me. They had a withdrawal strategy for every single type of investment that they had. So from their 401k money that they were converting, they were still withdrawing some of that on their early years to live off of. This was great, super, super great, because they were able to use that money and that became part of their traveling dollars. That was their paychecks. They weren't dependent on that from a retirement income standpoint because they were starting to put all that money into a Roth IRA, which they had learned at another workshop and seminar that they went to. This is what they did on their fun time and their free time, is about once a week, twice a month, depending on what was available in their community, is they would go to these different financial workshops. And a lot of the times they knew more than what the person was presenting because they were just trying to basically work with you, but they were there to get proper information. And that's why they liked going to these library and school classes and college classes on retirement planning. They had a plan for every single month, how much to withdraw, what percent, what was that actually going to do from their tax standpoint as well. But they also put together $1 million aside for long-term care planning. They didn't believe in life insurance. They didn't believe in long-term care. They wanted nothing to do with that. They put their foot in the sand, drew a hard line and said, you know what? This is something that we're going to self-insure. So what they did is they had roughly $1 million worth of stocks. This was their growth fund for long-term care. But the brilliant thing that they did is they picked a lot of stocks that had dividend producing income so that they were able to use the income from the stocks to help pay for their lifestyle. They were getting anywhere between $40,000 and $50,000 a year of stock dividend income off of their portfolio. And that is what helped them keep their standard of living. It paid for their property taxes, all their food, all the necessities basically, their electricity bill, all of those things. Now, I'm sure you could imagine they were pretty good with getting their bills down as well. They were very detail oriented around that. So they were not wasteful with money, which a lot of people are. So they were able to have income from their stocks. They were self-insuring from a double purpose from a long-term care standpoint. And then they had tax-free money later on in their retirement years. And I haven't talked to them in a few years now, but they probably have the majority of their money in Roth accounts now. So you're probably thinking from our earlier conversation in today's show, their Social Security is going to be what? Tax-free if they're only taking withdrawals from Roth accounts. Also, when they turn 73, which they will be here shortly, they're not having to do required minimum distribution. So it's going to help save them from a tax perspective too. But they really did all of their homework, and they did one of the most amazing jobs from a do-it-yourselfer planning standpoint that I've ever seen. Now, when I did all of these workshops and seminars to teach people about Social Security, I was able to meet another individual. And this man, great guy, super grateful, very nice, lived pretty modestly. But he made a few mistakes that I want to share with you. So if you're going to do your own planning, try and avoid these things. These were a big headache for him, and things didn't go to plan. And I'm going to share how that happened with him. So do you remember in 2008? That's really when I started my financial career. The markets were all over the place. The markets were down almost 50% from the S&P standpoint, and a lot of people were panicking. This gentleman retired early. He retired in 2006. So, he retired early, everything seemed great, then the market crashed. We had an almost 50% loss for his portfolio. And you know what he did? Like a lot of people, he sold 40% of his portfolio. Not all of it, which was smart, but he put 40% of it into cash. And he left it there for 10 years. So he basically had two portfolios inside one. All of his money was pre-tax. So that means he was going to have a tax arrangement with the government for the rest of his life, unless he did Roth conversions. But the thing is, the 60% of his portfolio that he kept in the market, That rebounded the next year, so he felt pretty confident in that. But he was always skeptical, always scared, and always worried that this could happen again. So he kept that 40% of his portfolio into cash. And guess what happened? The market kept going up, up, up. Now granted, there were times in 2016 the markets weren't great. 2020, the markets weren't great. 2022, the markets weren't great. But if you did great things, whether buying more investments or holding, you would potentially be ahead depending on the stocks and the investments that you chose. But that 40% that he kept in cash really did not allow him to live the lifestyle that he dreamed of, because those funds did not keep up with the plans that he had in mind. He started traveling a lot. He would go on 5 to 6 different vacations a year. So if you think about it, he was spending a ton of money, and then he was also being taxed on this, and he didn't take into consideration his taxes. And by the time that I had met this gentleman, he had gone through almost 80% of his portfolio. He spent almost 80% of his money. And he told me about this. He said, "Bill, I really regret not keeping my money invested in 2008 in the market wholly. He should have trusted that things would come back." Or he also said he wished that he would have sought advice from a financial advisor. So one piece of advice that I would love to give you is, if you want to do your own investing, it wouldn't be a bad idea for you to just pay for a financial advisor's time. Have them put together a full retirement income plan, which is one of the things we do at Bloom Financial. That's how we help you retire as you desire. But just tell the financial advisor up front, I'm not going to move my assets, I'm not looking for ideas, but I am looking to see if my plan is on track for me to do the things that I want to. It's a great piece of advice for anyone doing your own planning. Take the time, sit down with someone who's been there, done that, and who have helped others who may be just like you. Don't be afraid to have that conversation. You may learn something, you may find new ideas, but it also, hopefully, will give you peace of mind, to give you confidence to go into retirement and really live the life that you dream of. Thank you for watching the Retire As You Desire show. As you know, every week we're going to have great content just like this. Don't forget to watch every Friday night, 6 p.m. Central.